Alright, so let's take a look at number 4. It says your math test scores are 64, 72, 78, and 73. So you've had 4 tests so far, and then it says what is the lowest score you could get on the next test and still have a 70%, right, which would be a C average. So a lot of times this comes up towards at the end of the semester, with final exams, for instance, and a lot of students will ask, well, what's the lowest score that I could get and still end up with a B, or if I fail the final, what would my grade be? So that's kind of the calculation that we're making here. Remember that to find the average, you take the sum of the terms divided by the number of terms. So what we mean by sum of terms is that, well, just take all your test scores. So you got a 64, a 72, a 78, and a 73. And then we want at least a 70% average. Well, so we've only taken 4 tests so far. We actually haven't taken that 5th test yet. So if you took the test you have so far, 64 plus 72 plus 78 plus 73, and then what we don't know is that we don't know, what have you got on this next test? Well, you haven't taken it yet. So, sure, I could put a question mark. Right, but in math we use variables to represent things when we don't know them. So instead of putting a question mark, we're going to put X. And then we want all of this, if we averaged it up, and there would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 with the test that you haven't taken yet. So there'd be a total of 5 test scores. And what we want that to be is that we want it to be at least 70. So we're going to say equals 70, because we're looking for the lowest score. Now, obviously, if we get something higher, then great, but we're trying to figure out what's the lowest that we can get. Alright, so what we want to do is that we just want to combine some like terms. So I need to add up all of the stuff that's on the top there, 64 plus 72. Just for accuracy and speed it along here, let's just throw that in the calculator. So 64 plus 72 plus 78 plus 73, that equals 287. So I'd have 287 plus X over 5 equals 70. So I just want to get X by itself. When we try to get X by itself, there's 2 things I got to get rid of. I got to get rid of the 287, and I got to get rid of the 5. Now, what we do is that this says divided by 5. So in algebra we do the opposite to get rid of things. So the opposite of dividing by 5 would be to multiply by 5. And the reason why we do that is because when you multiply by 5, those 2 things cancel out. So if you have a fraction and you don't want it to be a fraction, multiply by the denominator, right? So that's what we did there. We're going to multiply by the denominator, to get rid of fractions. So if you ever have a fraction, something's a fraction, you don't want it to be a fraction, multiply by whatever's on the bottom. Those 2 things will cancel each other out, and then poof, no more fraction. So, of course, what we do to one side, we have to do to the other side. So we've got 287 plus X equals 350. So fraction's gone. And then, so now at this point, then I can just solve for X. So I'd have to subtract 287 from both sides, minus 287. And again, let's make sure we got that right. So let's do 350 minus 287, and we're going to get 63. So X would equal 63. What that means is that the 63 is the lowest score that I can get on this next test and still end up with a C in the class. Now, if I got a 64, 65, 85, 100, those would all guarantee me at least that C. But we're saying that this would be the lowest that you could come up with. Alright, so take a moment, let's go ahead and pause, and you give 4.2 and 4.3 a shot. And then we'll come back here in a second and check. Alright, so let's take a look at what you got. 4.2 in the middle should have got X equals 75. And for 4.3 on the right side should have got X equals 96. Alright, so that concludes problem number 4.